Hi, welcome to this week's edition of 26 Minutes With, the show that really honors those who are leading, making an impact, and creating positive change on the planet and locally. I'm your host, David Cohen, and I'm really super pleased to have this week's guest with us. Her name is Kayla Henry. Kayla is a Canadian artist who shares forthright poetry. Her work exposes inconvenient truths and encourages independent thought. Her work has been shared worldwide, allowing her to connect with the many people who resonate with her unapologetic expression. Kayla has two self-published poetry collections under her belt. These works feature a critique of Western society and offer actionable solutions, inspiring perspectives, as well as revealing the traps of fear and conformity. And I'm going to just play for you, and we're going to listen to one of her poems that went viral 2 years ago. And when we come back from this, we'll discuss Kayla's new book called Effing the System. I love the title. So let's listen to this. It's about 4 minutes, and yeah, it's definitely worth the share. It's called Parisia, and it's by Kayla Henry, and it came out a couple years ago. Here goes.
It's been like this forever. This isn't a change of weather. Freedom's hanging by a thread here while we binge Netflix and TikTok. Now I'm not here to judge you. I know we're all scared and tired, and we've been so hardwired, media fueled the wrong fires. We're depressed, we're dying while billionaires are crying of laughter. While we're just running faster away from reality, well, why wouldn't we? They've got guns and we've got family. This isn't conspiracy. Theories have been brought to light throughout history. We're in a cave thinking we're free, won't go to the light, it's easier not to see. Can we go back to dictionaries when definitions were clear? Words manipulated we didn't know existed? Let teachers fix it so parents can be distant? Mess with child development? Just leave it to the government. Let them draw our paths, because we gave them the pencil. We can still erase this if we face it, us against the faces that convince us drugs will solve our problems while they profit from our consumption. Stop listening to stars and politicians and begin using intuition, discerning fact from fiction. Stop paying into our addiction of listening to a system that's turning us to victims of our lack of wisdom. If you don't see it now, it's okay to be confused, but don't throw rocks at those who do. Take a step back and you'll see who is piloting this ruse. A bunch of individuals profiting from your residuals, putting our money into propaganda and riot police instead of into our failing healthcare system? They've always done this. Tell us they need our money to fix the roads while they ride private jets and fancy boats. No wonder we can't stay afloat. We're right where they want us, distanced and thoughtless, avoiding each other so we can't discuss what's wrong with this picture. Instead, we discuss our feelings, caps lock on, with words vomiting out of our thumbs, without knowledge of real arguing. Why can't ideas be shared without ruining friendships and careers? Just because someone got offended, never learned emotional intelligence? Your feelings have no relevance in the crusade for truth. If they gave any credit to the people, we wouldn't have censored information. We get just one side on every station, pushing separation amongst each other. So we're too busy judging mothers who wonder why their kids are being smothered, masks in gym class. Call out the other when he pulls down his mask. How do they even learn in class? Ads selling problems, not solutions. Our institutions told us following was the solution. Because if you think for yourself, you'll go nowhere with an F. But I can tell you, the people who came out independent were the ones who were observant. I had to unlearn to become present, and I'm still working on it. But I make decisions for myself. This isn't about health. If it were, they'd tell us, get your vitamins, go for walks whenever you can. Do sports, eat well, have interactions, real human connections, raise your kids with healthy immune systems. Instead, they punish insurrections that fight for freedom from the infectious disease that is control. They swallow us whole, keep us indoors, special treatment for big box stores, give us fines when we're unsure what martial law is in place today, give us checks to stay on our good side, keep us lost and afraid because we can't afford a rising mortgage or rent because we lost our pay. It was never going to be just a few days.
Wow, very powerful stuff there, Kayla.
Thank you.
I hope you're still proud of that because, yeah,
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago, but at the same time, still relevant.
definitely relevant. So, welcome. Um, in this day of conformity, your work sheds light on the not towing the party line, and that doing so is more hazardous to our health, our emotional well-being, our freedoms, and how our kids and future generations will be impacted in future. Where did this voice of yours begin to want to speak out like this? Like, where did it? When did you say I can't take it, and I've got to talk to this?
Well, it's interesting. Throughout a lot of my life, I always had a bit of a distrust in, let's say, the medical system, and slowly I started reflecting back onto my childhood and my time in the public school system and how that was affecting me. And so there was a lot of introspection going on, but then when the pandemic hit, I started really beginning to question it as well, because I could see the absolute push of propaganda. And I mean, for myself, I am an actor as well. So I know what an advertisement looks like. I know when people are pushing things that aren't good for you. I can see the techniques that are used that are always pulling at people's emotional strings and triggers. So after a while, I was kind of getting fed up of watching people just fall into this trap. So um I wrote Parrhesia, and it really it was really a time for me to kind of reflect on everything that I had been seeing and feeling over uh, quite a long period of time, and it kind of all rushed out of me at once. And I decided, well, I mean, if this isn't who I am, if this isn't an expression of the truth, I don't know what is, and it's time to share and just bite the bullet.
It takes a brave soul for sure. And you mentioned you're an artist, you're a singer, a poet, an actress.
Mhm.
You notice the subtleties of life, and you weren't afraid to hold back.
Yeah.
And living life like that, it's not for the faint of heart, Kayla. You lose friends, acting agents, and perhaps
Mhm.
one family might do an eye roll on occasion.
Yeah.
So you've been really, how have you been impacted by not being afraid to examine the underbelly and the undertones of society these days? Where do you summon up the courage to speak your truth?
Well, there's a lot of negative aspects of speaking your mind and speaking the truth. But when you really take the time to think about it, well, the good very much outweighs that. And I don't want to live my life pretending I'm someone I'm not. I I I trained as an actor to be a professional at doing so, and that's fine when I'm acting, but when I come home, I don't want to bring my work home. I'm not interested in playing a role, and especially if I think as I go through the rest of my life that is unknown, I'd rather settle into my values as much as possible, because I find values really influence and assist positively in making big decisions in your life and even small decisions. And I think the more you try to self-censor and conform, the the more trouble you have making decisions, and also generally the decisions you make aren't really the right ones for you.
So who influenced you, in this kind of line of thought, and in being like a courageous young woman? Who influenced you to become who you are today?
That's a good question. I was always a bit of a weird kid, I suppose. I wore crazy mismatched socks. I got mild bullying in high school, which honestly, I think that did me some good because it started giving me a bit of a backbone. Um, I think more than it being a person or multiple people who inspired me to become this way, it's more like series of events that I had to overcome and realize that was for my own good.
Right. Um, did your parents like, teach this like in you or instill this sort of, no, speak your truth and be authentic, your authentic self? Did they have a hand in?
Well, they always pushed me to follow my creative path and be my own person. Um, I don't know how much they meant for it to go this far,
Yeah,
but for sure there's an aspect there of them, saying like that's how it should be yourself. And also my grandfather who well, he recently passed, but he always told me to be the hammer and not the nail.
yeah.
And I heard that saying repeated on multiple occasions, so that kind of got instilled into me as well.
One thing so yeah, our grandparents and our elders have wisdom,
Hmm.
and what we're seeing now is that we're just dismissing the we're just dismissing our elders,
Yeah.
medically and spiritually. We're just not including them. Oh, they're in a home and and whatever, or they're okay, right?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that your grandfather, had a hand in your outcome, right? One thing else I got from reading your new book, Hacking the System,
Hmm.
Poetry, is it seems in your spoken word and poetry work, it felt to me that you got a soft spot for children and their future. And you're not holding back on critiquing the notion of masking and injecting our kids, whether they truly need it or not.
Yeah.
Am I right in sensing that you are seriously concerned about the future of our youth and teens?
For sure. I mean that's a great thing to deduce from my work, because a lot of the self-knowledge I gained was from reflecting on my childhood, and in the sense where I can see a lot of the issues that affected me over the years and held me back over the years, that were a lot of part of what society was kind of doing to children in public school systems, and as well as just advertisement and even cartoons and television. um so when I reflect on my own childhood, then of course I begin to worry about the future, other children, because as much as there was a lot going on that was wrong when I was growing up, it's increasing more and more with the influence of social media and the turning of school systems and how they are treating children. It seems to be getting worse as time goes on, but I do appreciate that there's a lot of parents who are fighting back against that and becoming more interested in having a heavier influence over their own children.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in my work, I have a training consulting business, and I do work with youth entrepreneurs. I go in and I teach. Well, these past 3 years, it's been on Zoom. And, what concerns me is they're so disconnected. They're connected to the cell phone or
Mhm.
technology. And it's like, no, be here, be present, uh,
Yeah.
and it's like, and the other thing that concerns me is there's sort of a bit of a challenge with communicating with others.
Yeah.
And going to be in business and do things, on your own, and the businesses, youth businesses are a little different than adults. They're more into the arts and music and fashion and, cannabis stores. One of them was opening up. It's a sampling. However, they lack the skills to connect and build relationships and know that the meaning of connection. Do you feel that? Do you sense that in what you're discovering through your work and through your observation?
Yes, I'm finding that the younger generation, they're kind of not so dialed into nature and reality. It's more about fantasy and dreams. And when you're living in a world where everything comes to you very easily, you don't even have to leave your house, you get packages delivered. Even the workforce, a lot of people are working from home now. You don't need to go out and socialize and experience the hardships of actually being out there. And a lot of the jobs as well, they're not challenging on your mind and body. You're just sitting in front of the computer for hours and hours of the day. It's not stimulating. It's not challenging. So the problem with how we're treating youth today is very much we're keeping them with their security blankets, and we're not pushing them out into the world and saying, hey, it's difficult out there, but you can do it, and the rewards are going to be nothing like you've ever experienced before, because the rewards we're teaching children right now to chase are so they're so material. We're selling a Hollywood mindset, we're selling a fame mindset, and that's all stuff that people think, oh well, if I push enough, it's just going to come to me. Hard work isn't valued anymore.
Yeah, I feel there's a dumbing down.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not building resiliency among our kids.
It's coddling for sure.
Yeah.
You can be whatever you want to be, and if someone else tells you different, then it's their problem, instead of encouraging children to really reflect on themselves and what they want and what they value. And that comes a lot from parents just kind of disengaging and sending their kids to daycare, spending so little time with their children. When you look at it, if you're sending your children to daycare and to school, how many hours of the day are you allocating to teaching your children your values and passing down something of true meaning? You're just putting the raising of your kids onto someone else and letting them get influenced not only by public school systems, but also just by the media that they're consuming all the time.
Yeah.
Parents have no more influence. They're not even trying to take it back.
Yeah. So it starts at home. We have to own it.
Yeah.
Own, the gift we bring into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even noticed, like you mentioned, and I'm going to talk to you more about media in our deeper dive version of our show today. But I look at commercials on TV, especially like I do watch a little sports. And what is it showing? It's showing fast food, junk food, like, burgers and fries and pizza. And, oh, we've introduced our double burger with cheese and bacon. And it's like, not that that's not enjoyable, but if that's your diet, that's also not healthy. It's not healthy for the body.
Yeah. And we're also encouraging youth to, well, it's another taking away of their independence. You got to go and get your coffee and your breakfast made for you, and you got to get your burger, because there's no time to learn how to make food for yourself. And when you start making your own food, you actually have a much deeper knowledge of what's going into it.
Yeah.
And a lot more self-control as well, just with budgeting, with health. It's not comparable.
No. I want to share a poem in your new work, your new book, and I felt it's pretty poignant and subtle. It's subtle, but in a way, it's a gut punch
Hmm.
in the most gentle of ways. And it's called Conflict Cattle. You know,
Mm.
putting band-aids on bullet wounds, watching them fester while standing proud, masquerading good gestures to treat us like idiots. Well, surely we are, as we've let lousy rhetoric string us along this far. I could cry, but I won't. And I feel that way too, you know. I could scream, but I don't. See the point when no one will listen, just joined by words and driven by apprehension. As much as we want to curse leaders who only gain, we sit with empty pockets and ventriloquize. Oh boy, doing that once. Ventriloquized brains. Do we thrive bound to language where we're never taught to read, or do we live better lives when we plant our own seeds? And that, to me, just speaks to what we've just been talking about. Yeah, do you want to just speak about that poem and what you know what was coming up for you when you wrote it?
Yeah, well, we've lost complete control of our innate abilities to grow and to improve on ourselves, and we just sit as sponges right now, it seems, and we let someone else tell us who we should be, what we should do, what's the right path, what's the right series of events. You go to school, then you go to college, then you get a job, not a trade, a job in an office, and then your greatest assets in life are your car and your house, but those aren't assets, they just cost you money.
Yeah.
So we just we're not thinking for ourselves anymore. We're being told that liabilities are assets, for example, and we can't even think about it. Well, oh, if I buy a car, is that really like a great investment? Am I making money off my car? Well, no. There there are so many layers to it, and it just boils down to um kind of just letting our own abilities go and putting them on someone else. And not only doing that, but also when things don't go our way, well, we place the blame on someone else and not ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, those assets, a car, a house, a condo, you know, in where I am at, you know, it's condo central. And it's like,
Yeah.
good, you're getting a little box uh, for over $500,000. And
Hmm.
have fun with that and have fun paying that off, by the way. So there's
Yeah.
a noose around your neck.
Yeah.
Basically, they got you. It's like you're trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I read the forward of your book, and you're right. I don't want to talk about the weather, the most popular television series right now, or celebrity drama. I don't want to frolic in echo chambers or agree to disagree. I want to get to the bottom of things, explore the uncomfortable. I want to tiptoe into the improbable. And above all, I want to create art that reflects that journey. So going deep for me takes courage, and it's not for the faint of heart. So you go deep into our wounds, into our collective psyche,
Mhm.
and as I said, it's not for the faint of heart here, Kyla.
Yeah.
What is it in you that you know is you know willing to go that deep within to bring out your truth? Like it's like that's a special person, I think. You know, willing to look at the you know that not so nice parts of life that are happening. What is it in you that you know really?
Well, the more I ignore that type of stuff, the more disconnected I feel, and the more I dive into it, the more I get to know myself, and the more I realize that my life, I don't want my life to be about chasing material dreams. I want my life to be about living peacefully and not riding the highs and lows of all sorts of societal changes. It's it's too much, and I want to get to know myself, and the best way to do that is by not avoiding reality.
Who do you feel you attract? Who's coming on board? And that video we or the audio clip of your video that we played at the beginning. Who's coming to you? Who's saying, "Wow, yeah, you're speaking my language here"?
I mean, people from all over. I mean, people I didn't know before, people I knew and didn't think they were on the same page as me, reaching out to say, "Hey, this is really resonating with me, and I'm glad you're speaking out." I've had a lot of people say, "Well, it's helped me feel not so alone in all this," and that's a reward for me as well. Is we need to be building communities instead of continuously being torn apart by society and the the impending doom that we're always being fed that
Mhm.
creates conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's been nonstop for 3+ years. I know
Mhm.
it's been before that, but since March 2020, it's
Yeah.
almost been hit after hit. And it's like,
Yeah.
I know personally, it's like I'm waiting for a little good news. So when I came across Paris, 2 years ago, I went, yeah, I felt like that. It's like, yes, you're talking my language. I feel that, you know. So true. What of those close to you, like your friends, your family, your work colleagues? What have those close to you said about your poetry and your messages?
I think a lot of people appreciate the art, perhaps not the message, but I'm learning to deal with that. I think as long as I'm leaning into my values and living with integrity, then other people's opinions aren't going to affect me to that point. Because I am selfishly doing it for myself. I want to release and I want to talk about the things that are bothering me, the things that are wrong in society. So why not just do it? It is so liberating. I was pent up before. It's not a healthy place to be.
Yeah, I feel it. Now, on the flip side, for those that know you and don't resonate with your message, what
Mhm.
pushback have you received?
N- Not a lot, honestly. When I when I put Parhesia out into the world, for example, I didn't think a lot of people would see it, and I was sweating profusely as I was clicking publish on, on my social page. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what are the people I know going to think about this?" And then it turned into something much greater. People I didn't know, people from all around the world were reaching out to me, and I had maybe one weird person in my DMs drop in to say I should be locked up in a padded room, which just kind of made me laugh more than anything.
Aren't we already?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I thought that's what you wanted.
yeah, man. Um, so you're what's next for you? What's going to keep you going? Is there a deeper mission or calling as far as your purpose is concerned? Like moving forward?
I want to continue creating art. I think just poetry comes to me naturally, and I find it's art to be a really great way to encourage thought rather than push conclusions. I think that's what we're missing in the world right now, because we're living in an information age. We're bombarded with articles and videos telling us, well, these are the facts, these are the statistics here and there. People are sick of that. People are done being told what to think. So art is a nice way to just encourage people to start thinking rather than pushing a message over and over again. Whether it's a positive message or a negative message, nobody likes to be told what to do over and over again. It's exhausting. So I'd like to just continue creating art. I'm also focusing just on living a peaceful life. And I was saying before we were live, I'm working on my garden. I'm just kind of finding peace in my own life and settling into that. And that also fuels my poetry and inspiration, because the less noise I take in, the more I allow myself to be creative.
Yeah, and we were both talking before we went live here today about, having a bit of a news fast or information fast as
Mhm.
well. I just started mine 2 days ago, so I have nothing to report yet. Although I've had withdrawals.
Yeah.
What have you noticed since you're, being still more, being quiet more, and shutting out the outside noise? What have you noticed in yourself?
Oh, I've noticed I have time. I've got recipes that I'm diving into. I'm seeing butterflies and hearing the birds and enjoying the sunshine. Like I'm just in the present moment, enjoying the gifts of the day rather than worrying about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen or potentially going to happen tomorrow.
I love that. And it's such a different place to be, because we're just, wired, right?
Yeah.
Wired to go, and, yeah. Although it's changing, I do notice, people are changing their views on
Yeah.
that hustle, crush it culture.
Mhm.
Um, we're almost done here for the 26 minutes. We've gone a bit over, but it's so worth it. We're with Kayla Henry. You're listening to 26 Minutes with. We are in a period of divide on so many levels, Kayla. What's the common ground that to unite us and to move more into freedom, peace, love, healing, the higher self principles, in other words? What do you think what's the one thing that might be able to unite us?
It's really on kind of an individual basis, where we need to sit down with ourselves and listen to our own thoughts for a moment, engage with our own thoughts, and figure out what really is going to add value to our lives. Because the more we're living valuable lives as individuals, the more the collective has value and improvement. So I'd say, instead of trying to push everyone to get on the same page as you, it's more just settle into yourself and figure out, okay, what am I doing with my time that makes a lot of sense? What is holding my attention that shouldn't be? What is distracting me from improving on myself? And that's why, like, I'm an advocate for just creating art, especially in writing, whether it's journaling or writing poetry. It just gives you a moment to yourself to write down everything you're feeling and experiencing without filtering it, and then being able to read it back. And then you start that cycle of just processing your thoughts and emotions, which is really healthy, because we take our ideas out into society before we even think on them ourselves. And so as soon as we go out and have a conversation with someone who may disagree with our values, well, now it's the first time we've ever had our ideas challenged. And then it becomes an ego battle rather than figuring out what's really going on, getting to the bottom of something.
Yeah, I guess there's a line in a movie, and I only saw the preview of the movie, and it was the young actress said, "You do you, I'll do me,"
Mhm.
and in a way it's a nice. It's not a bad way to be, just like, hey, you do you, I'll do me. I'm okay doing my thing. We might differ,
Yeah.
uh, but that's fine, you know, as long as it's not too aggressive.
Yeah.
We're almost done. If I love the feedback on your poetry, quotes like poignantly brilliant, or thank you for expressing so poetically what so many of us are feeling. Are you sensing that more of us are waking up to this sort of lack of integrity that exists, or the misguided directions in the system that is becoming more corrupt, more antagonistic, and dare I say soul sucking? Are you noticing a shift?
I do see it. I think the more people speak out and use their voices, the more folks who may be thinking the same thing but feel very alone are catching on that, okay, this isn't just me, or okay, there are actually large communities out there who are working towards something much more meaningful. So the more we can show that, the more we can, as much as I hate like fueling the media, but the more we can kind of take over with the positive end, the more people will be opened up to it, I suppose.
Yes, this is great. You're such a joy. So this wraps up our the 26 minutes with edition. We're going to go to a deeper dive next. We did go over time, but I think the information, the share today was really really important. So Kayla, I would just want to thank you. As I preview next week's show, we're going to be with Jody Dunn about youth justice and the work she's doing to make reforms possible. But if you want more of our interview with Kayla Henry, stay with us. Join us next on our deeper dive just by clicking below to the deeper dive. And in the meantime, I just want to thank you for listening. Please share, like, and comment below. Our deeper dive is next with Kayla Henry.